Hi everyone, this is the Queen Bee coming at you, and today we're going to be doing a fundamental stitch video. So this is the square stitch. Don't worry, it's not hard. The square stitch will be the small rivoli at the bottom of this earring. Don't worry, it's not as tricky as we might think it is. And we're going to make this entire pair of earrings or second earring together. So don't you worry if you've not done much of this yourself yet. It'll make sense. So right now I'm gonna use a 12mm Ultra Lime AB Rivoli. It's an aftermarket coating that goes on the back of a Rivoli, and it makes it a neon color. They make all kinds of them. It's awesome. And my green beads that you see right there are a size 8-0. I think they're Miyuki seed beads. If not, they are Toho's, but they are they're really cool beads. I really like them. And what we first need to do is not worry about those orange beads just yet. What you're gonna do is I'm using a size 10, I think, beading needle. If not, it's a 12, one or the other. And I've got a 6-pound fire line on my needle in a smoke color. You can use crystal too, it's okay. And I'm going to string on a bunch of beads that will fit snugly around the perimeter of the Rivoli. That's what you want to do when you're making this round, the square stitch in the round, as they say. And I know lately I haven't done very many bead weaving videos. Don't be daunted. It's totally doable. And square stitch is a nice one to start with because it's really straightforward. So I'm just seeing how this will fit. You'll have to bear with it's technically a little bit different to shoot this kind of a video because things are small. Right, so they are a Miyuki seed bead in size 8. I got basically all the seed beads you're going to see in this video are from Highly Regarded Beads. It's an excellent seed bead place. I found them on eBay, and the lady who runs it is named Penny, and she's really, really nice. They're in Australia, but that's okay because they are A1 with their shipping, so you get your beads quickly. And there's the fire line, the 6-pound fire line. I usually buy this on eBay from fishing companies. And here's another bag of the Luminous Creamsicle size 11 seed bead. They are known as Rocaille seed beads. They're not the other kind of seed bead, which is also known as like a delica or a cylinder bead. They're the rounder kind of bead. You'll see what I mean. So, okay. I've got all the beads I need strung on, so I'm going through this quick, as you can see, to reinforce everything and make sure that my thread is intact. Okay. Now I'm going to scoop out some of the orange size 11s that I need to go to round 2. This is one of my favorite stitches for bezeling a rivoli, because you can do these kind of smaller rivolis and have them look a little more substantial, which is always nice, because I don't know if you have much experience buying rivolis, but the price goes up quite a bit higher when you need to buy the bigger ones. Okay, so I've got my first bead, and what I'm going to do is go back through the bead that I was coming out of. You just go backwards like a back stitch, and then you stitch up through the orange bead. Don't worry, we'll go over this a few times. So pick up one, go back through that second green bead and through the orange. Okay, so that's how you're attaching them. You're making like another row right over top of them. And how this works is the rows, even though you're using the same amount of beads, because the size is so different, that's how it gets smaller and smaller with each concentric circle that you make with your beads, and that's how it holds the rivoli in place. Okay, so I've got, looks like my last orange bead for this round, and I like to hold the tail of the thread in my index finger there. Okay, now in order to make this all cinch together, you go through all of the orange beads just like we did with the green ones in the very beginning. There we go. You didn't need to see this in real time, so I sped myself way up. There we go. So that's how it cinches up. All right. Now I'm going to use some size 15 seed beads again in just a clear silver lined color. They're kind of a workhorse bead. They're not, see, there you go, 20 grams of them, size 15. They're a good bead because they go with everything. So if you don't have very many beads, it's good to get colors like that because it'll always, basically always work with whatever you're doing. So we're going to do the same thing again. It's just a little bit trickier to get started because the beads are smaller now, you see. So, okay. And we're going to go back through that 15. Let's do it again. Pick up one. And go back through the second orange bead. Okay, and then through the silver one. It's the same thing as we did before. It just might take a little bit more finesse to do this third and final round because it is smaller. Like the beads are smaller, the area that you're working in is smaller. So, but you'll see, you'll get lots of practice. And as for needles, as you can see, mine that I'm using is kind of an older needle, so it's bent. Okay, there's the final row. And I've already gone through it. So now what I've done is I'm coming out the green row again, and I'm going to do another orange row because we've just basically made the back. So now we're going to work on the front. Okay, So we're just going to do all that again. See? There we go. Pick up an orange. Go backwards through that green bead. And forward through the orange that we just added. And there you go. So we're going to do all those steps that we just did all over again. The difference being this is going to be the front side of the bezel. So here I go. I've sped myself up again so you don't have to watch me go through everything. As I was saying earlier about needles, I'm using a traditional kind of long beading needle. You don't have to do that. You can use what they call an English needle, or a famous brand is John James. They make a great needle for beadworking. I use them. They're quilting needles too, like quilting betweens they're called, and they fit great through seed beads, I've found. And they're short needles. They're not nearly this long, and they're stiffer, so they don't bend like a traditional seed bead or beading needle does. So if you don't have any needles, or you've tried these ones and they drive you nuts, try a John James quilting between. They're great. They're really, really great. And they're great for quilting too. If you're a quilter or a hand sewer of any kind, they're a good needle. I really like them. Anyhow, I'm sorry. I get so distracted. So, okay, I'm doing the middle round now, the third round, which you don't really need to see me do. There you go. So it's the same on the front and the back. Boom. See how simpy that was? Not hard. Not hard. All right. So we are on to the next fundamental stitch, peyote stitch. That's going to work for the middle rivoli there. I've got a 14 millimeter rivoli there in Paradise Shine color. It's a great color. Love it. And we'll do a basic peyote bezel and then we'll embellish it. So there are many tutorials out there about peyote stitch. Here's the beads that I'm using, size 11. These are delicas. They're a cylinder shape bead, meaning the side walls are not round. It's just a cylinder of glass. So, and the Tohos I'm using are 15. They're like I think they called them champagne. They're like a rose gold almost. And those are a rocaille. Those ones are rounded, like a regular seed bead. To do peyote and get a nice tight weave, which is what you want, use delicas or something with a side wall like that. The Tohos are treasures. They call them treasures. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to count how many beads are prominent. How many are the up beads? Do. And then I'm gonna use the trusty old calculator app on my phone here, and I'm just gonna multiply it by 2. When you're doing peyote stitch, you need to make sure that your number that goes around a stone or a rivoli in this case, it has to be divisible by 2. Okay? That's the rule. So I need 34 beads. I took the number of beads that I counted and multiplied it by 2 so that I know it's divisible by 2. Okay, so I'm gonna scoop my purple beads out. That's another awesome thing to have, a bead scoop. Makes things a lot easier. So I'm gonna count out the 34 beads that I need. And the reason it's got to be divisible by 2 is because your first round will actually become 2 rows of beads. And I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. Once you add your what works out to be 3rd round of beads, then you start to see how those initial beads that you added start to jog up and down and make the up beads and the down beads of the first and 2nd row. Yeah, it sounds really weird, but it's once you see it done, it's really not weird. Plus, I'm not the best at articulating that. It's just one of those things. So what you do now, after you've got everything added on, is you do just like we did with square stitch. You're gonna go through all of your beads again. That's why you're gonna want Japanese quality beads like this, because the holes in them are nice and big and uniform. So you can pass through these beads multiple times and not worry about breaking one or hurting your needle or your thread or something like that. By the way, speaking of thread, if you don't have Fireline, Michaels sells Wildfire, which is really nice too. It's just really expensive. And you can also use Nymo, which is a nylon thread. The only problem with it being you have to condition it first with wax. Anyway, okay, so what you do is you pick up one bead and you go through, you skip a bead and then you go through the next one. And that's how you're going to start seeing it look like almost like a gear shape. I guess. I can't think of a better shape or analogy. But you'll start seeing up beads and down beads. Okay, so I'm going through that bead there, and I'm going to pull. And because these are delicas, they're going to click together like bricks, which is great for when you're weaving. You see how there's those up and downs? See that? There's like 2 beads on top of each other. That's what you want to see. So, the other reason you need your beads to be divisible by 2 is that you need to add a last bead in the round and be able to step up, which is what I'm doing right there. I'm going through 2 beads to be up in the 3rd row of beads. Okay? And please don't stress. I'm going to do a photo slideshow towards the end of this video, which will show you in photos what this all kind of looks like, because I know in video it's kind of fast. So I'm adding another round of beads. These I'm just using a different color. And these are those soft pink beads. Same size, same shape, just a different color, because it will help with the embellishing that we're going to do. And there it is, you see? So I'm adding that pink row. And now I'm pulling, and it's going to start to make a cup shape like this, so that our crystal can fit. So now I've moved my needle up to the kind of the front of the rivoli. And I'm gonna add, I'm trying to think of what I'm adding right now. More purple, I think. More of the purples. I think. Oh no, that's not true. I'm adding 15s to cinch everything together. There we go. And that is a basic peyote bezel. If you want to, you can stop right now. But if you want to sort of embellish a bit further like I do in this earring, then you can just carry on. So I've gone to the very back of the bezel here, and just for security's sake, I'm going to add some 15s on the back in every not quite every slot where a bead would go, just because I want the back to be tight. There we go. You'll see me do this again on the other stone for the top. I'm just speeding myself along because I figure you don't need to watch me do this in real time. And then I just give it a pull when I get all the way around, because tension is important. See how I'm adding 15s and sometimes I'm skipping spots? It's just to make sure that everything tightens up and I'm not adding an extra row of bulk. I'm leaving the back foil exposed on the rivoli. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can keep going. You'll just have to modify your stitching quite a bit to cover all of that foil up. I'm not worrying about it because it's not going to be touching the skin, so it's not really going to come off. I'm not at risk. Okay, there it is. And now we're going to do the PICOT embellishment. Okay, so I'm going to come from the back. I'm going to head up to the middle of the weave on the side. And I'm going to, this is where having the different colored, those pink beads, is going to come in handy, so that I can situate myself properly to do this embellishing. Oh, looks like I felt I wasn't quite done yet with the back. Sometimes that happens, where you think you're done and you're not quite done. Okay. Finally, can we move on now? Self. Alright, so I'm keeping my 15 O's out, and I'm dumping out some 3mm bicones. They're a mix of colors. They're a mix of Paradise Shine and I think Scarabaeus. So, okay, here we go. I am putting my needle right under, right in the row, underneath where the pink, that light pink bead is. You'll see why. Okay, so I've got a crystal and a 15, and I'm gonna let them slide down. And I'm going to skip over the 15, and I'm going to pass through the bicone only. Okay? Like this. And then I'm going to pass through the next purple bead. There we go. So if you've done any kind of bead weaving before, it's sort of like a fringe, if you want to think of it that way. So now I'm, again, my thread is coming out where the pink bead is on the bezel. So I've got my crystal and my 15. I'm going to slide them down. Skip the 15 and only go through the crystal. And then if you can do it all in one shot, then go for it. Then you slip through, there you go, the next purple bead in the row that you're on, and then you pull and it stands up all by itself. It's awesome. It's a great way to add some size to your rivoli, and it gives it a nice sunburst look. It's a nice texture visually. Okay, so I've got my 15 and my bicone again, skipping the bicone, or skipping the 15, go through the bicone, go through the next purple bead, like that. Okay, that'll put your thread back in the correct position, and you're gonna just go around like that until you're done. Okay, looks like I'm on the last one here. There. Now, as they are, they're quite loose. If you were to leave them, they'd be kind of flimsy, and I wouldn't trust that, because you never know. Your hair might get wrapped around and pull one out loose, or, something. So what you want to do is reinforce. So I've come up through a bicone. I'm going to pass through the 15 and then go back down through the same bicone again. I'm going to make basically the same thread path that we just did to add them, only I'm going to do this in order to reinforce them. So the more thread that you pass through, obviously the stronger and more stable it's going to be. That's the name of the game with bead weaving, is definitely reinforcing things. If you've never done it before, that's definitely something to think of, to try and remember, is reinforcement. Woo! That's why bead weaving takes a bit longer, I find, at least for me, because of all the reinforcing. And see how they're kind of loosey-goosey, and the ones that I've reinforced are a lot tighter, so you just go round and round. That's what I was trying to gesture there. And there's how stiff they are on the finished earring. You see, the more thread that's in there, the stronger they're going to be. All right. And we're done. So I'm leaving my working tail, my working thread, and the tail on for now. And I'm just wrapping the thread around it so that I can, put it away in a reasonable way. Excuse me. And I'm just putting it in a bag. I always put everything in a baggie so that I don't lose it. And now we're going to do a crystal, wait for it, topper. So this is the biggest rivoli of them all. It's the third one, and it's the top. So here it is, a light vitro 18 millimeter rivoli. These are the big boys. These are awesome. I love big rivolis. I think we all do, don't we? Okay, so it's going to be a similar bezel to what you've seen me do in the first peyote section of this video, but the edging is going to be a little bit different. You'll see why when we get there. Right now, okay, I'm using magenta Miyuki Delicas. They're really cool. They're like a purple that's metallic. That's why it only came in a 5-gram bag, because they're expensive. I've got some Delicas DB73. It's a nice purple. And later we'll be using these size 8 neon plum crazy beads and some matching plum crazy 11 rocailles. All right. Gonna thread on some new fireline here. It's hard to find the end sometimes. So to do a something like this, I want extra thread just so that I can really reinforce stuff, and I can go through the whole earring at the end for the assembly and everything. So I've cut quite a bit of thread off, probably almost a meter. If not, it's just a yard, which is slightly under a meter long. And you have to kind of press down on the end of the fire line to flatten it so it'll fit through the eye of your needle. So what I'm gonna do is count again how many beads I need. And since I already bagged that earring, I thought I won't unbag it, I'll just count through the bag. That's what you're seeing me do right now. And it really is the same. The same process again. It's just the embellishing that will be different slightly. There's a picture of Carly Simon on my phone. I must have been listening to Carly Simon on Spotify while doing this. 44. So I must have had 22 beads in that round, so I multiplied it by 2, got 44. Okay, peyote. bezel. Recap. Right. So I'm going to speed myself up here. So I'm using these beads here. Those in the funny little Tic Tac container, those beads came from Red Panda beads. And she's really good too. Her name is Betsy, I think. She's really cool. I got those in a Monday mix. I don't know if she still does that now. But in those days, and when I bought those beads, she did this thing called Monday mix, where she would make a mix of beads, like 9 colors of beads, and you buy them as a collection. They were so cool. Alright, so I'm stringing these 44 delicas. Do 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 do. Here I go counting. And I'm gonna go through everything. That is just to show you that I'm doing photos. Okay. Here's the first bit of peyote that you do. Okay. And then we add that metallic purple bead round. And then it starts to stand up and make a cup. You want to pull for tension and make it stand. And that's how it's looking with the crystal inside it. But we don't have enough beads yet. Okay, so I'm adding another row of purple. The purple that we started with. Because this is a big crystal, so we need more rounds. And there is the front round all done. There's the 15s, those pale pink ones. So that means the front is done. So that's how it's looking at the moment. It's still loose because the back is all exposed still. And you're gonna work your needle to the back like this and add another round of the purple that we started with, just to get around the edge. And then you add those 15s where they need to be added. You'll see I skipped a few spots, and that's just to decrease the round and make it smaller. Alright, now we're ready for the picot. Wait for it. Recap. I had fun making those. Okay, so I'm putting my needle up through to this point where it's coming out, where one of those magenta beads is, one of the metallic purple. And there it is from another perspective. Okay, so I've picked up an 8/0 and an 11/0 on my thread. Well, that's my needle, but you know what I mean. I'm going to slide it down, skip over the 11 and go through the 8. So it's the same thing we did last time with the bicone and the 15, except now we're doing it with regular seed beads, not crystal. So there's the first part of the embellishing. And my needle, or my thread, I'm sorry, is coming out of the purple bead right beneath the metallic bead. So there's the whole round. Okay, and I'm coming up and out of my 11-0 on top of one of those embellishments. There it is. I put my needle through it so you could see it clearly. Okay? Now we're gonna start the final round. So I'm taking my bicones and I'm just gonna add a bicone in between each embellishment and just slide and pass through every 11-0. And these are 3mm bicones as well, by the way, not 4s. And so it's just a straight round through all of those 11s with a bicone in between. It doesn't get much easier than that. There we go. And of course, the name of the game is reinforcement. If you leave it like this, it's too loose. So just go around and reinforce, just round and round and round as much as you can without too much trouble. And now we have to think about adding the little loop of beads. So I've got 10 15 O's on my needle right there. I'm coming out of a bicone right now. And I'm going to go back through, you'll see, back through the same bicone again. And I'm going to reinforce that because that is going to be what holds our hook, our ear hook. Okay? There we go. So, and I'm going to go through that. I think I passed through it 3 times. I like 3 times. It's a good number. All right. Assembly! Yay! This is where it all comes together. So, now I am at the bottom of the rivoli there, trying to make sure that I'm right below the one side of that loop of beads. Because you don't want your earrings hanging all cockeyed on you. That would look really, really lame. So, I'm going to put the middle rivoli on. So I'm going to unravel everything. I'm just checking what I'm doing. So I'm going to go through a 15. And another one, I think. I'll know in a second when I see what I did. If I was smart, I would have the earring here with me so I could just look. But let's see. Oh, yeah, right. I'm going down through a bicone. Of course I am. That would be silly not to. Going through one of those purple cylinder beads again, and I'm going to come up through the next crystal, the crystal that is next to it. Like that, yep. And the 15 on top of it. I'm trying to show you, so that's why I'm covering the crystal as best I can. Okay. And then I'm going to go through a bicone and an 11 on the top crystal there. And then you reinforce. That's what I meant by round and round like that. And then finish off your thread if you need to. And so we're going to add on the very first rivoli that we set. Oh, that's Sophia sleeping right there next to my board. She likes to be a part of the videos. She's the most photogenic. Okay, so I'm going through one of those 8s, one of those green beads. I'm just checking my work on the other earring. See how there's the 2 15s that are kind of smooshed in there between on either side of that one green bead? That's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the 15s and the green bead in a circle. By the end of my working on this video, the cat has taken up like the entire couch. Only a cat person would allow this to happen. Alright, so I've got the beginnings of that on there. So I'm just going to reinforce everything. I'm just making sure it's hanging correctly, which it is. I've got my ear hook. Okay, so I've buried all my threads and everything is good. I'm just opening up this ear hook here. It's a silver plated one, so it's nice and shiny. And I'm just putting it over that, in that loop of beads that we did. So that obviously orienting the hook to the back so that, you know, it hangs on the right side of your ear. And that basically is it. And I am so sorry this video took so long to make. It's just, my daughter was homesick from school and just, you know, everything. So there are the earrings. Ta-da! I hope you like them. I think they're pretty spectacular. They were lots of fun to do. And I hope you'll give this a try. Please do give it a try. Alrighty, I'll see you next time. Bye!